Good afternoon. Welcome to Leading in a Lean Environment, How the Pandemic Has Changed the Role of Leadership with Brett Cooper. I'm Christy Snow with Results Washington. My pronouns are she, her, and I will be your moderator today. We have about just over 1,000 attendees who have registered for the session, and we are so happy to have you here. I am joined today by Emily Dahl, who will be providing ASL interpretation. And thanks to my team member, Kathy Holder, who is managing technology behind the scenes. I want to share a few things before we get started. We know many of you are familiar with Zoom meetings, but there are some differences in Zoom webinar, which we're using today. The biggest difference is that you won't be able to talk or have your video visible. This ensures all participants can focus on today's presentation. We want to draw your attention to a few different features in Zoom and how we'll use them. If you move your mouse, the toolbar will appear and you can see icons for the chat and Q&A. And just please be aware, these are two different features. Chat will be available for parts of this session during certain exercises. And please keep in mind, this is a public record and will only be monitored during these times. If you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to pop all those questions into the Q&A box. We won't be able to respond to all the questions, but we will try our best to provide some answers. If you have experience with any technical issues, go ahead and drop those into the Q&A feature as well, and we will do our best to help you. Next, you'll notice an icon for closed captioning. If you wish to see closed captioning, click that icon and select Show Subtitle, or you can view the full transcript. You can also adjust your view to make the presentation or speaker larger by sliding the vertical bar on your screen from left to right. Session materials are available on our website and videos will be posted within a week. If we get disconnected or run into technical troubles, we will try to get the webinar back up for about 5 minutes. And in the event we are unable to do so, we will record the session and put that up on our website. Finally, at the end of the session, a survey will pop up. Please take the time to complete the survey. It's really quick and only 3 questions, and it provides the presenter and Results Washington with some real-time feedback. We are very fortunate to have Brett Cooper with us today. Brett Cooper is the co-founder of Integris Performance Advisor and co-author of Solving the People Problem, Essential Skills You Need to Lead and Succeed in Today's Workplace. He has been supporting Washington State's lean journey since 2011. The Integris team has trained several thousand agency employees how to implement lean efforts more successfully, which has helped people across Washington government learn to work together in more productive, more effective, and more human ways. With that, I will hand over to you, Brett.
Thank you very much, Christy, and welcome to everybody who is here. I'm just going to share my screen here. 10th annual conference. How amazing is that? I don't know how many. Matter of fact, Christy, let's go ahead and use the chat right away, and let's go ahead and ask everybody, how many people is this your first conference, first Washington conference that you've had so far? And there they fly, Christy. This is how we know we got a ton of people. Wow, we got so many first people. This is fantastic. And of course, we get some nopes in there, some seconds, some thirds. I want to see some tens in there because we started this journey with the Results Washington team. 10th, there we go. I saw a 10th. That's fantastic. See a bunch of them now. You guys at Results Washington have done such a fantastic job of keeping this thing going. We created this 10 years ago on a shoestring, and somehow we were able to pull it off, and we got over 2,000 people to come to it. And we were just talking before we got started here, and we have almost 3,000 people registered for this year's conference. And the ability to take that, go from Tacoma and be in the conference center there, and then convert it over here to virtual the way you've done. It's fantastic. So I am excited to be part of this yet again for a 10th year. I'm hoping 11th gets us back in person, but who knows, right? Actually, a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today highlights some of that uncertainty around where are we going with this thing, because we're in totally new waters here. But I've joined several of the presentations so far. Amy Lineker yesterday was great. The governor was fantastic. And I was thrilled when the governor was talking about some of those examples that he was sharing. And he was highlighting ecology and licensing and DSHS and Liquor and Cannabis Board, all organizations that we've had the pleasure of working with. And man, Alfie, her whole keynote speech, we had a great opportunity to work with Alfie and her leadership team a few years back on a 6-month leadership journey. So they do so much great work for our veterans. So that was fantastic to have her as the keynote speaker. So on to today. So today, my whole topic is this concept of leading in a lean environment. We've used that moniker for many, many years because there's a lot to leading in a lean environment, right? And specifically today, I'm going to talk about how the pandemic has changed the role of leadership and how it's affected our cultures and what we need to be doing as an organization to make sure that we are driving high levels of engagement, that we're keeping our people. So the specific focus is largely on this term called the Great Resignation. So this is a term that's been trending a great deal lately. Use the chat, if we can, Christy, have the chat open for a second, and type in the chat and let me know, have you heard this term, the Great Resignation? This is something that there's a lot of articles being written about it, a lot of yeses, some noses, some definitelys, but a good number of no's, So the concept of the Great Resignation, it's encapsulated in the fact that as of April of this year, 4 million workers have left their organizations. And 41%, according to Microsoft in their 2021 Work Trend Index, 41% of American workers are actually looking, seeing what else might be out there. So this whole idea of the Great Resignation, this the whole pandemic has had all of us kind of realize different things. We've learned, hey, we can work remotely. We can be productive doing that. If we're going to work from home, do I need to be where I have been living all along? So there's a lot of things going into this idea of the Great Resignation, that some of them are people struggling and some of them are people finding new opportunities. But regardless of what's driving it, it's a reality. People are leaving their organizations in droves like they never have. And so today, what we're going to do is I am going to share with you some of the research and findings that we've done, as well as a couple of third-party things. I'm going to share with you 4 policy decisions that you in your agency can make that will reduce stress and increase retention. And because we want to be real practical about all of this, I'm going to give you 2 techniques that you can use to increase engagement and connection on your team and in your agency. And then if you stick around till the end, we're going to give you a what I think is a great bonus. It's a gift that will take your learning a little bit further. So that's our plan for today. So let me jump into it. And we have a poll. I have a few polls up here in front, just to want to kind of understand, okay, who's here. And I want to compare the audience today to some of the research we have. So Chrissy, if we can bring up the first poll, which is, how would you classify your role at work? So go ahead and put on there whether you're an individual contributor, a frontline supervisor, a mid-level manager, or you're at that agency director or executive. And if these 4 don't perfectly capture you, do your best to pick one of those there. And what I will do is I will compare these results then to what the respondents were with our group. So Chrissy, how are we doing? Okay, so we have a pretty good mix here. Excellent. And in fact, what's really interesting here? Leave this up for just a second because I'm going to go one further. So we had 4,500 respondents and we had 43% individual contributors. Today we have 42% individual contributors. We had, let's see, 11% supervisor in our study, 18% here today, mid-level manager. You all are 32%. We had 28%, and then a little bit light on the more executive and director. But thank you, Chris. We can go ahead and close that. But so I think that's going to highlight then that a lot of what comes out of the study today, or what I report back on the study, will resonate with you because it's a very similar type of a population. So the next question I want to have is, Christy, this will be poll number 2. Before the pandemic, answer this question. Before the pandemic, I worked from home. How often? Almost never, sometimes, usually, or almost always. That's before the pandemic. You might guess that we're going to go figure out where you're doing now, but we want to see where we started. This is back in 2019, before the world was turned upside down. So Christy, with this size of an audience, how long? Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, the vast majority of us here, what's that? Over 90%, 91% of you say that before the pandemic, almost never to sometimes, right? So that's not very frequently. Okay, great. Christy, let's go ahead and close that. What I'd like to do is actually have the chat open. This is a lead in to the next poll. Actually, I do want to point out, in our respondents, we did have 74%. So you guys were at 91% who said that you worked in the office setting mostly before the pandemic. They said 74. But before we get to the third and the final poll, use the chat and tell me, what city are you dialing in from today? So Olympia, Seattle, Lacey, Maple, Salem, Oregon, Everett, Tacoma. So I'm seeing a lot of different cities. If we were doing this 2 years ago, if we were all in person, this would have been a really easy question to ask from the stage, right? Hey, show of hands, what city are you all in? Yeah, we were all in Tacoma. Man, you guys are all over the place, both inside Washington and outside of Washington. I'm seeing several cities that are outside of Washington. So that then leads me to this third and final poll question that I have for you, which is, currently I work from home, same level, almost never, sometimes, usually, or almost always. What do you think there? Based on the cities that we're dialing in from today and joining in from today, I'm going to guess that this is going to be switched here, that there's going to be a whole bunch of people now that are saying almost always or usually. So we will give you just another second there, and we'll see what these numbers tell us. Whatever these numbers come out to be, the fact of the matter is, it's a big change. Look at that. Boom. Almost inverted. So at first we had 91% of you, almost never to sometimes. On this, you currently work from home. We have, what's that, 83%. So it's almost flipped. Christy, thank you very much for that. That just highlights what a different world we are living in. And in our research, actually fewer than you all, only 48%. But we were able to collect a lot of information around, okay, well, what has that meant for them? How has that changed their world? How has that changed their workplace? How has that changed how they view the world of work and how they interact with their colleagues, with their leaders? So let's jump into this a little bit. We have some work from home confessions. I find these quite humorous, largely because I think I've experienced all of them myself. So let's play along here. I have 5 of them in this. So let's use your chat and let me know if you've experienced these, all right? So the first one is, you have embraced a more casual hair, makeup, or clothing approach? Who has gotten a little more casual in their wears? Just put a yes or a no in the chat on that. No change. Yes, 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 yes. Yep, yep, yep. Tons of yeses. Sweats. I love it. I love it. Fantastic. Yeah, so we actually had a good number in our audience, in our research here, do that. Over 80% said that they did that. And you know, there's some good things to that, but there's also some. Let me actually go back for just a second, because when we get a little more casual, for some of us, that's the greatest thing ever, right? It's like, okay, I don't have to put on a tie, or you know, I don't have to do my makeup, or don't have to do my hair. But for others, there's that impression that, you know, when I go to work, I want to be in my work attire here. I did just look at the text, and I saw the last one that came through. Rachel, thank you very much for pointing out you are still showering. We actually have some work from home confessions that didn't make it into this presentation that kind of line up with that. And let me just tell you, everybody is not still showering on that regular basis. So this next one here, have you worn sweatpants or pajama pants with a nice top? Heck, I could even ask, are you doing that today, right now? I know for sure I have. I've had the good fortune since we released the book, Solving the People Problem. I've had the opportunity to be on a lot of podcasts. So we've done a lot of podcast interviews, and yeah, it's all, you know, it's right here and up. So, you know, hey, let's be comfy. The study, over 60% of folks, Hey, Christy, you're wearing the leggings, no sweats or PJs. I got to tell you, I haven't put on the leggings yet. I hear they're really comfortable, but I haven't gone that route yet for myself. All right, here's the next one. Have you had a colleague's kid, spouse, or pet interrupt a work meeting? And Chrissy, are we going to experience this from you today? I know your pup was getting anxious right when we got started here today.
I'm trying to keep her contained.
Fantastic. Yeah, I got a pup here. Fortunately, she's laid down on the floor, so she's calm. Yeah, Allison points out, absolutely have had this, and I love it. I would agree. You know, we have over 60% in our study did that as well, and there's an element of this, right? It's creating more humanity. It's allowing us to connect in a way that we haven't before, and I'll say more about that in a minute. But I think it's pretty good. Sadiq, yeah, people seem more real then, doesn't it? You know, you get to see, as Ivory points out here, it's nice to see people's real life, right? It's real easy for us to put on big airs when we go into the office. We put on our outfit, we go into the office. Now all of a sudden, you're looking at what's going on in the background. And for so many of us, when we don't have, you know, a side office, we're working from the kitchen table. You see the kids, you see the dogs, all that kind of stuff. All right, how about this one? You've had your own kid, spouse, pet interrupt in a work meeting. A lot of you have said that. I'll just go ahead and tell you in this one, we had almost 60%. Every day I see that. And the final one, this is the one that I actually really like. This is the one that I think highlights that humanity, that we're getting to see what's going on in the world. Have you learned something unique or perhaps quirky about your colleagues? Anybody learned anything? You know, don't say what that is here. Remember, this is public record and we have 1,000 people on here, so we don't want to do that. But yeah, this gives us the opportunity to interact and connect in a different way, which is actually a fantastic thing about this. It's allowed us in many ways to be more vulnerable. And I recognize a ton of the names through the chat. And I recognize that many of you have been part of some of the programs that we've done in the past around, you know, the leadership challenge or the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team or everything DISC and personality styles and things like that. And if you're one of those people, you'll remember everything that we talk about is about being more vulnerable, right? You know, this whole idea of building vulnerability-based trust. But there is another side of the vulnerability that we've gotten by inviting everybody into our homes, by changing our structure so much. And that's that people are stressed, right? I think a lot of people thought originally, hey, working from home, that's pretty sweet. I can probably cut down my hours and have a little more casual. Well, the reality is, for most of us, our hours have increased, right? We, when the office is the next room over, or the table over, or just the computer sitting in your lap, suddenly we don't have that division from work. We don't have that separation. And that whole commute that we used to complain about so much, a lot of us have realized, that commute, even though we're sitting in traffic a little bit, listening to some tunes, talking on the phone, hands-free, of course, but talking on the phone allowed us to kind of decompress a little bit. So there's definitely some upside and some downside to this. In fact, in our research, we found that over 4 out of 10 said that they were highly stressed these days. And that's something that we as leaders, and in fact, as team members, we really need to be paying attention to. Because if that stress gets too high, if we don't manage it, we're going to be leading to the Great Resignation, right? That's what's going to kind of go bad. All that stress drives dissatisfaction with this whole work-life balance, which quite honestly has been blown out of the water. We used to talk about work-life balance. These days, it's really more about work-life integration, isn't it? There's really not much we can do to not have things integrated. In our study that we did recently, only 18% of employees report being very satisfied with their workplace balance, or work-life balance. And almost 38% kind of reporting on the opposite. They're neutral, dissatisfied, or even very dissatisfied about their work-life balance. And so we want to find ways to be able to kind of counteract some of that, right? I mean, the reality is we're now living on Zoom. We're now working out of the house, but there are some things that we can do as teammates, as leaders, and as organizations that we can embrace. So the first thing I want to do here is highlight some top policies that came out of the research that really highlighted some things that organizations are doing that employees really appreciated. So the first is this PTO and mental health days. So the pandemic highlighted mental health in the workforce, and really in a way that we've never, ever seen before. So according to our research, providing additional PTO and mental health time, that had the strongest impact on lowering stress levels for employees, both at the height of the pandemic and also continuing on to today. So it plays a really important role in lowering stress. I actually found it surprising. Only 32% of the respondents in our survey said that their company had actually modified those policies. To me, that highlights that organizations that do actively prioritize, discuss, and even cater to the employees' mental health moving forward are going to be in a much, much better position to retain and attract top talent. So that's the first policy that you can do. Second is greater flexibility. I think based on everything you've interacted with me so far, what you said on the polls, what you said in the chat, you know that flexibility is the new way we do things. But the one thing that's really fantastic is that this whole shift to remote work, to hybrid work, it's taught us that flexibility does not come at the cost of productivity. All of the numbers out there show that productivity is really, really high. I mean, there was a brief gap, but we figured it out. And as we move forward into the new world of work, organizations are going to need to build policies that are going to help employees really maintain that work-life balance in a way that it prioritizes their health, prioritizes their well-being, and their life outside of the workplace. And that's going to be a great thing, because if we do that, in turn, it's going to support a really, a much more productive working environment. And real importantly, if you're thinking about this idea of flexibility, it's really important to note flexibility is not just continuing to allow space for remote work or hybrid work. It also means addressing when people work. Now, if you're on a team and you need to meet, or if you're in a customer service, obviously that needs to take place in work hours. but I can't tell you how many people I interact with these days really early in the morning or really late at night, or maybe they stagger their days. One of the things that was fantastic in the way my career developed, we started Integris Performance Advisors back in 2011. So I was actually work from home before work from home was cool. But what it allowed me to do for all of those years, even pre-pandemic, I was able to be the dad that I wanted to be. I didn't miss softball games. I didn't miss Taekwondo tournaments because I was able to take that break, just schedule my meetings around that. And I was able to walk away and go do my business and then come back and get right back to work. So leaders and teammates, be real flexible and ask yourselves, when someone has a time constraint, ask yourself, do we need to be meeting at that time, or is it okay? Hey, we pick our times and we all have to be there for that. But for all the other stuff, we can actually allow even greater flexibility. Something real important to consider. This third one, time to connect with colleagues. There is a lot more to work than work itself, right? The employee experience rests heavily on an organization's ability to build strong, healthy working relationships. If you've seen my previous presentations, I talk about this all the time. It's about building work relationships that really work. And although this last year has made it really difficult to connect with coworkers, many organizations, many teams have found virtual ways to keep culture at the core and fuel employee relationships from afar. So investing in things that will drive employee relationships could be things like virtual talent shows, lunch dates, coffee chats. Even when you get on Zoom, having some time up front, having some time after for that chat. In just a few minutes, I'm going to talk a little bit about some communication styles and how we can leverage different communication styles on our teams and how we as leaders and teammates can respect those different communication styles. And I know for some of us, when we get on a Zoom call and there's some chatter going on up front, talking about the weekend, for some of us, we're thinking, this isn't business. We don't need this. But there are a lot of us who do need that. So make some more space for that, right? And don't forget to purposely build in optional, but fun, enjoyable, non-work interactions during work hours. Don't expect people to have to do that on their non-work hours, so that you can make sure that people are staying connected wherever they are, because it still is true, even though we're remote, even though we're hybrid, one of the key drivers for employee engagement is the relationships that we have at work. So those are really important for you to maintain. And the fourth and final of the policies that I will share here is really, we need to have leaders who listen. And this one is interesting because people have lower stress levels when leaders reach out, engage, and actually listen. Because people want to feel heard, right? They want to be heard. They want to feel acknowledged for their unique needs, for their contributions that they brought to the table. And in turn, that's going to make them even more committed to work. The organizations that are falling prey to the Great Resignation are the ones where people aren't engaged. People don't have those hooks to their relationships at work. So we can all agree, I think, that it makes a big difference when the leaders in an organization really do care about what happens to us. And if the leader is going to invest some time in making kind of our work life better, that's going to keep us engaged, and that's going to want us to work harder and be more flexible to everything that's going on. So although, as a leader, some of that listening time, especially if you have a big team, can be time consuming, it is worth it because it sends your employees the message that you value them. It also does a great job of reducing stress. We talked a little bit earlier about how much stress people are feeling. If we can do these 4 policies and pay attention to mental health and PTO and give people some greater flexibility, have some time to connect with colleagues, and have leaders who listen, it's going to reduce the stress. I actually have another study that I wanted to share with you here. This actually comes from the Achievers Workforce Institute, and they looked at stress levels and appreciation and how engaged people were at work. And the thing that I find interesting about the graphic that you see on your screen here, there's actually two things that I find very interesting here. The first is the fact that you see on the left-hand side, we have much higher measures of engagement. So what this is saying is that people who received some appreciation, some heartfelt appreciation in the last week, those are the folks who feel most engaged at work. And so as we go to the right, this is, well, I got I had some kind of appreciation or feedback in the last month, in the last quarter, in the last year. And as you might expect, it goes down. So it's not enough to just, as a leader, show appreciation, once in a while. It makes me think that when I got married, when I was on the altar and I said, I love you to my wife, if I would have said, look, I love you, and I'll let you know if anything changes, but don't expect me to keep telling you I love you, I don't think she'd be very engaged in this relationship that we have. So just like saying I love you to a loved one, appreciation is showing love to your employees, to your teammates, to the people that are your colleagues. And so you need to show that love because it does drive engagement. The other thing that I find very, very interesting here is we have the orange line and the blue line. The blue line is that I received appreciation from my manager. The orange line is I received appreciation from my peers. So it highlights, their research really highlights that it's not enough just for the leader to be doing this stuff. We really need to be building these cohesive teams where all of us are looking out for each other, and we're all trying to build an organization and a culture where we all can come and be our true, authentic selves, and we are getting good feedback from others. So let me ask all of you, how many of you can say yes to you have received some appreciation within the last week? Let's see how you guys are all doing in your agencies. Are you getting appreciation? So I'm getting yeses, and getting a lot of yeses. Good. I'm getting a few no's. I'm also guessing that, and it's kind of by the way I asked the question, you're not putting the no's, and it's public record, so maybe we don't put it out there. But if you're not getting that appreciation, bring it up with your team. And a great way to get appreciation is to show appreciation. I do see someone highlight here that you're getting appreciation from employees, but not from upper management. That's an issue. That is absolutely an issue. It needs to be both. As you see on this screen, if the blue and the orange were different, then we'd be able to highlight that, okay, one is more important than the other, but it's not. So if you get it from your colleagues, that's great, but you need it from your leaders as well, and vice versa. So if you are a leader, make sure that you are sending those signals and you are showing that real, honest appreciation. And because that research does show that appreciation drives higher levels of employee engagement, I just want to reference an old slide and some old research that continues to prove to be accurate, but this is from Gallup. And this just highlights how important employee engagement is to the well-being of our organizations. Right? The organizations here, that this is the difference between the top quartile organizations and the bottom quartile organizations. And what this is showing us is that the organizations that have the highest engagement have higher productivity, higher customer satisfaction, they have fewer defects, they have fewer safety incidents. And as we're talking about here today with the Great Resignation, they have lower turnover and lower absenteeism. So if you happen to be somebody that is, a little bit more, hey, we got to get the job done, let's focus on the work. And I would argue that everything that I'm talking about here is good for the people involved, and it's also good for the business. So no matter what your perspective is as a leader, whether you're all right, we got to go get the job done, or I go out of my way to care for my people, these are techniques and concepts that will benefit you and will help you achieve your outcome that you're seeking. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips on making people feel and heard and appreciated. But Chrissy, I fear that I did not live up to my my commitment to you to actually pause once in a while here. It's so fun interacting in this way. But Christy, are there any questions that you feel we should address now, or is everything that came in we should save till the end? Oh, you're muted, Christy. Oh, you're still, all right, Christy's, you're muted. Okay, there you go. Go ahead.
Oh man, this is what we're talking about, right?
It happens.
Right, exactly. So there were questions about data around how many people were in the sample set of the research that you were sharing.
Gotcha. That research set was 4,500 people, 4,500 respondents, 4,500 and change. And it was from a broad range of organizations. So we had tech, we had nonprofits, we had some utilities in there, we had some consumer goods in there. So it was a pretty broad range of people. And I showed early on the distribution as well around, I think it was 43% were individual contributors, and then we had something around 28% that were mid-managers and so on. So that was the grouping.
And for the appreciation, how are you managing or measuring the appreciation?
So the appreciation in that study was around frequency. It was around the question of when was the last time your manager showed you appreciation? When was the last time a colleague showed you appreciation? So it really is around the frequency of things. And if for anybody who knows one of the other frameworks that we do a lot of work around, the leadership challenge, you know that one of the things that my colleagues and I talk a lot about when we talk about leadership behavior, it's not about being, the most refined or being the absolute most polished in how you do your leadership behaviors. It's frequency of behaviors. It's how frequently are you doing the things that make leaders more effective. And in that study, Christy, the question was, how frequently are people getting some appreciation from their colleagues?
Awesome. Thank you. There are a couple questions, but I think what you're going to cover next will answer them. So I'll hold on to
fantastic. Well, so what I wanted to do here was actually get into some techniques that you all can actually use here. So the techniques that I'm going to share with you are actually drawn from the book, Solving the People Problem. And what you see here on the screen is the field guide for leaders that we created, which has a number of exercises that are designed to be kind of self-service for leaders, for teams. So I've picked a couple of the ideas, the concepts out of there that I think just by what we discuss here today, you can take them and you can apply them in your own organization. So the first is a exercise that we call the appreciation seat. So if you've been through one of our 5 behaviors of cohesive team programs or one of our productive conflict programs, you might have gone through this process of the appreciation seat. So I'm just going to share with you what this actually is. So the appreciation seat is this. First of all, you ask all your team members, and this is something, by the way, that you as the leader of the team can do, but it can also be initiated by other team members as well. Of course, we want to get the leader on board. That would be ideal out of the gates, but the leader does not have to be the one who initiates this. So the first thing you want to do is ask your team members to think of a contribution that every other teammate has made or continuously on a kind of a regular basis makes to the success of the team. Then you want to get people together. You can do this virtually or you can do it in person. But then what you do is you take turns having each team member sit in that proverbial appreciation seat. And if you're doing it in person, actually do the appreciation seat. When we do this in live sessions, we'll put a seat up in the front of the room and say, okay, you're in the appreciation seat. And what we do is, again, have all the team members kind of go around and take turns sharing that feedback. And it's an opportunity for us to both give appreciation and also receive appreciation. As the study showed that I was just referencing up above, again, you can't get enough appreciation. You can't get enough feedback. You can't get enough encouragement. Of course, it has to be, heartfelt. It has to be real. It shouldn't be, every 5 seconds. Hey, I like your shoes. Hey, I like your shirt. Hey, nice dog. Right? That's not the kind of stuff we're talking about. We're talking about meaningful kinds of appreciation, things that people on your team do that contribute to the success of your team. So one of the things I want to highlight here, though, is that appreciation is a two-way street. Very frequently, what we see when someone sits on the appreciation seat and team members start to share some ideas and share some feedback, we get a lot of, oh, no, no, it's no big deal. And no, you don't have to thank me for that. And honestly, we need to learn to be gracious in our acceptance of positive feedback. And here's why, because if somebody finds it, in their heart and finds it worthwhile to share a piece of feedback with you, a piece of appreciation, well, let's face it, they're going out of their way a little bit to do that as well. And you want to embrace that. And you want to honor the fact that they're basically honoring you. So what we typically tell people is say thank you, say I appreciate it, and don't go to the things of, no, it's nothing. So, but that's the appreciation seat, a real easy kind of an exercise that you can do, and you can shake it up too. You can put different themes on it, and if you get really good, you can turn it into an opportunity to start talking about, well, how can you get even better on things? So there's a lot of ways to ebb and flow with it. But it's a really simple kind of an exercise. And I'll tell you, I've seen it do wonders on teams. And I will tell you at another presentation, I'll even tell you a story about how it's impacted me personally. We did this on our team. And matter of fact, actually, if you read the book, Solving the People Problem, I actually highlight the story when I was sitting in the appreciation seat. So this is one that actually resonates very well with me. So the second thing I want you to think about is honoring different styles. Again, this is extremely important if you are the leader of a team, but it's also important if you are on a team, if you are teammates. And I'm going to give you a very easy way to do this. Some of you know that we at Integris have some tools that help you do this, but I'm going to give you a free, no purchase, just an easy way to do this. So what you do is you think about all of your teammates on these two spectrums. So, and you can do this in dialogue as well. So the first spectrum is how fast-paced and outspoken are you versus how cautious and reflective are you? The second spectrum is how questioning and skeptical are you versus how warm and accepting are you? And what you can do is in dialogue, you can kind of start to figure out, okay, well, where are our teammates? And we can put them into these quadrants. And so it turns out the research is really, really sound on this, that people in the quadrants tend to exhibit some similar characteristics, some similar tendencies and preferences in how they like to communicate. This is not set in stone by any means, but it's a general directional kind of thing. But it turns out the research shows us that folks that are up in this upper left category, fast-paced and questioning, they tend to be direct, kind of results-oriented, strong-willed. They're the folks that kind of cut to the chase. You'll communicate with them differently than the folks that are over here, also fast-paced, but a little more accepting and warm. These are the folks that tend to be more outgoing, more enthusiastic and optimistic, right? Kind of life of the party kinds of things, lots of ideas coming in. The way you communicate with people with these two different characteristics, it's something that you can do to better connect with them and basically show appreciation in a way that they will hear it. So if we continue to go around, for the folks that are accepting and warm and tend to be a little more cautious and reflective, these are the folks that very frequently are the ones who are very supportive, very accommodating, tend to be very humble. And if you keep going around, then folks that tend to fall into that final category there of questioning and cautious and reflective, they're analytical, a little more detailed, accuracy focused, kind of private. So we have these 4 kind of quadrants, and I'm going to tell you what you can do with this connected to appreciation in just a second, but just for kicks and giggles. I labeled these 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's use the chat. I think this is probably the last time we use chat today. Give me a 1, 2, 3, or 4. What quadrant would you put yourself in if you were to look at these spectrums? I'm not surprised to see all 4 of these coming through. And this is exactly what we find on our teams. The vast majority of teams have a mix. And some of you are putting 2 or 3, or, I'm a 1 and a 4. Yeah, absolutely. We can be, really far on one of these spectrums, but maybe more in the middle. Like for me, I'm right in the middle of questioning and skeptical. But I'm really, as you can kind of guess here, I'm really high on that fast-paced and outspoken. So I'm kind of right between that 1 and that 2. But the fact that you guys are highlighting here that you're a mix of all of these on your teams, this is what we can do with it. So for the folks that are a little bit more direct and a little bit more results focused, you might find that they will react really well if you express appreciation for things like their desire to get things done. And if you are direct and kind of brief with some of your communication, you might find that they resonate with that really well. When we were putting together the book, Solving the People Problem, we went out to a whole lot of people and asked for personal stories. Matter of fact, some of you on this meeting today are actually quoted in the book, which is fantastic. We have a bunch of stories from King County, from Ecology, Department of Licensing. So, but we find that if you can use these characteristics to kind of shape how you share appreciation, it'll help you. So continue around then. If you're going to be talking to somebody who's a little more on that enthusiastic, outgoing, you might express appreciation for their energy, for their enthusiasm. Take a friendly tone, be a little chatty with them. They tend to be more that way than the folks on the left. If we go down to the lower right, these are folks that tend to care more about the team than themselves. They defer a lot of times to, hey, how can I help other people? So express appreciation for that. Express appreciation for what they do to support the team and show warmth as you do that. And then finally, over here in the lower left side, remember these folks tend to be a little bit more private. So, express appreciation for their logic, for their accuracy, but also avoid using overly emotional techniques unless, kind of let them guide the way. These are just really kind of simple guidelines. By no means is this a mechanism to label people and say, oh, you can only talk to people in this quadrant this way or in that quadrant that way. It's all about getting to understand the communication preferences and the kind of personality styles of the people around you. And beyond understanding, it's about honoring those differences. Because let's face it, we all have different paces. We all have different levels of openness and how quickly we want to get into our personal lifestyle and things like that. So this is a tool and a technique that you can use to start to learn a little bit about that kind of thing. I know there are some of you on the presentation here that are recognizing, yep, this is that DISC framework. Many of you have had the opportunity to take a formal DISC assessment with us. But what I wanted to do today was to highlight for you kind of the behind the scenes mechanism for this DISC and show you, even without a formal assessment, you can put that to work. So we're getting to the end here. So I want to bring it together and take it a little bit further. So going back to that research, we asked people, hey, what do you how do you react? And what happens when you feel valued at work? So the kinds of things we heard were these. I can be myself at work. My colleagues feel like friends. I'm comfortable sharing parts of my personal life with colleagues. And I enjoy collaborating with my team. If everything we talked about today of giving people some flexibility, being a leader who listens, giving that appreciation. If we can get them to enjoy and help everybody on our teams enjoy collaborating with us, that's fantastic, right? And the last kind of conclusion out of that research, the employees who feel heard and appreciated by their leaders, they feel more motivated. They enjoy going to work every day, even if going to work means going to the kitchen table. They feel like their work contributions, they feel like their work contributes to their organization's success. They're more productive. They are the ones that recommend their organization as a place to work, which in days of the Great Resignation, this is what we want, right? It's the opposite of the Great Resignation. And they also empathize with their colleagues. And finally, kind of summary, they feel less stressed and they stick around in the organization. And that's what we want them to do, right? So there are two things that I have for you. The first is an ebook that John, I believe you've put into the chat. Maybe you want to drop it in there again, but this is an ebook that covers a lot of the research that I was going through and tells some of the findings. So if you go back up in the chat, or there it is right there. Thank you, Kathy, for putting that in there. Go ahead and click on that and download that. And then one other thing you can download, special for the Lean Transformation Conference, I want to give you all a complimentary copy of Solving the People Problem. So you have an opportunity to get the ebook complimentary, the audiobook complimentary. You can also even get a discounted version of the paperback if you want it. But so Kathy, maybe you can put in the chat the solvingthepeopleproblem.com/keynote. I apologize for not giving you that earlier. I have to type that in. But if we can give that, people can click on that. And I encourage you, hey, get your free copy, get the copies with the team, read about the appreciation seat, and learn a little bit more about how you can understand and honor those differences so that we can counteract the Great Resignation, so we can counteract all the stresses that we're feeling and really create these organizations, these healthy teams where we all feel ready to come, be ourselves, be our authentic selves, do great work, and feel engaged. So with that, I will leave this page up in case anybody wants to see that, but really we're on to questions. So Christy, in the few minutes we have left, what can I answer for people?
Let's see. So one lady did put a question in here. So as a leadership team, they demonstrate a lot of behaviors that you described during your presentation. What are some examples of how leaders can care for themselves as they extend themselves to so many others?
That is a fantastic question. Far too often in our leadership development training and our leadership coaching and things like that, we talk about, hey, how can you be a better leader to other people? The model that we adhere to with leadership framework generally is called the Leadership Challenge, which is a 30-year study on what do leaders do when they're being most effective. And I'm going to reference that to answer this question because the Leadership Challenge talks about 5 practices that leaders do more frequently. I'm going to skip the first one because I'm going to come back to it, but it's inspire a shared vision, challenge the process, enable others to act, encourage the heart, and model the way. So model the way is all about demonstrating to your team members, to your direct reports, the behaviors that you want them to exhibit. And that includes self-care, right? That includes taking your breaks. That includes not being on all the time. That includes taking your PTO and your mental health days. So anything that you think as a leader is good for the people in your organization and you want them to do it, the best way to encourage them to do it isn't to ask them to do it, isn't to tell them to do it, is to do it yourself. Show them the way, model the way.
Okay, that is awesome. I love those ideas. Another question. So somebody put in here the work-life balance conversation. They've been noticing lately conversations have gone away from limiting overtime hours to actually limiting the amount of hours somebody works. So they're curious, how can they compete with organizations that allow less than 40-hour work weeks? When a customer service organization, we need people to work those 40 hours.
Yeah, it's and I'm familiar with a lot of organizations who are doing that, and this is one of those things that honestly we're still trying to figure out. One thing that some of the customer service organizations that I've been had the pleasure to work with, they get into some of these rotating hours or staggered hours, so the same people aren't on for exactly the same amount of time. So if you have shifts, so to speak, and it can be shifts not like a not like a fast food shift where it's all or nothing, but things like, okay, let's have some of our folks start at 8 a.m. and be here 8 to 10 kind of thing, and then maybe another group comes on at 10 and they're the ones who stay a little bit later, so you get an extended amount of hours covered with the same number of folks. That's one technique that I've seen work.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I know we only have 1 minute left, and there's been a lot of people trying to go out to get this ebook, and they're just letting me know that they're getting a critical error message. So just a heads up on that.
Oh, okay. Keep that. I will check that as soon as I get off here. That's obviously a big problem. But if I don't know if it's the link here, let me see. So solvingthepeopleproblem.com/keynote should get you there. If you're not getting there right now, I'm going to immediately talk to my IT team and find out what is going on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brett, for being here. Thank you, Emily, for providing ASL interpretation. And thank you to everybody that attended the session today. There is definitely more conference to come. So please visit our website. You can go ahead and download any of the materials from this session or prior sessions, and you can also sign up for additional sessions that will be happening later today and next week. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Christy?
Yes.
Do you have the ability, if I check that link, do you have the ability to message, to email people in a thanks or something like that and give that to them in any way, shape, or form, the attendees or people who registered?